All right, another show about class, but is it overdone or does it do it right? Let's find out. Chase Lee Hockey here at the Blue Futon reviewing the 8th show. What's about pretty simple premise. I think this came on Netflix this Friday and is a South Korean show. 8 episodes, 8 contestants, and what do you know? They're in each room 1 through 8, and it's kind of a class system. And little do they know, room 1, every minute they get about 10,000 won, but room 8 gets like 300 and something thousand won a minute. This is a show about class and what people are willing to do to get to that ladder. And if you're on the top of the ladder, what are you willing to do to keep the people below you down? So, did I like this show? I thought it was a very intriguing show that's shot very differently than other shows like Squid Games, or people are comparing it to the platform, which I haven't seen the platform, so I can't really say what compare it to that type of show. But I did enjoy myself for these 8 episodes. First off, let's talk about the intro. Love the intro. It's like, lonely, I'm so lonely, or Mr. Lonely, whatever. But then it like speeds up and it's like crazy imagery. Really intriguing and really fun intro. I'll give it that way. I do think the actors are pretty good. You've seen the actors in other shows if you watch South Korean TV shows through and throughout. It's a show about dilemma and what you're willing to do. It is violent, but it's not Squid Game type of violence. It is more of like, punching, kicking, some gunshots, some tension here and there. And the actors do such a good job for me to hate a couple of them. Especially like number 8, number 6, and number 5. Either number 5, you're going to love or hate that character, but it got annoying, especially, what that person was willing to do. The premise is interesting. If you haven't seen the show, it's basically you got to do something, the watchers, to gain more days. But once the day counter runs out, the game is over. You win whatever money you get while being a minute in that room. Of course, there's a little bit of games or a little bit of rules of like each thing is actually like 100 or 1,000 times more than in the real world. So let's just say a sticky note pad costs like $5. In this room, it's probably going to cost you, if you do the math, either $50 or $500. So I can't remember exactly the actual math, but they do explain it in the episode 1. So what do I not like about this show? Episode 8. Episode 8, there's something that happens at the halfway mark. Took me out of it. I think what doesn't work is throughout the whole show, it's very minimalistic CGI. So when they threw that CGI element into it, in episode 8, it really took me out of the show. And this show will have talk about class and about what people are willing to do at the bottom. And I think this show does a good way of, there will always be a class system. There will always be the need for janitors. There will always be the need for CEOs. There will always be the need for the middleman. But it truly depends on the person, how or what they're willing to do with that class system and how they're willing to treat people above them or below them. And I think that's what really succeeds about a lot of this stuff. You could talk about, how there's a bunch of generals, a bunch of CEOs that people look up to. But then there's also a lot of generals and CEOs that people look down upon. And that's truly how they treat each other and how they treat the people below them. And it's saying the way up, where you do have like undercover boss. Or you could say how much you hate Trump. Every time he goes in the lobby, it sounds like it when you talk to the employees at Trump Town or Mar-a-Lago, he hands out $100 bills. Just because, I guess he's a good person on that level. And you could, I'm not trying to make it political, but the show does talk about the political aspects of the whole class system and what people are willing to do in those different scenarios. Because there are times where people at the janitor level or the 1 or 2 class system will do something so sleazily that it does like that's not a good person at all. And there's stuff that, a 7 does that, is good, but then bad at the same time. So it also goes into the dilemma of it doesn't matter who you are as a person, you are going to make stupid decisions, and it really doesn't matter on the class on some levels, because you see people in today's day and age where people make, the minimum wage. They have the 3 kids and they're enjoying life. But then you also have the very, very rich people committing suicide. You have a bunch of the actors and actresses in Hollywood committing suicide are, artists. So even though I know the whole money thing is like, I'm sorry, if I had $1 billion, I would probably be more like Elon Musk and enjoy myself, or Jeff Bezos, not, other people that are really depressed in the world. Some things were bothering me in the show about that, about what people are willing to do. And it was a little frustrating about how they portrayed some people, and I was okay with it, but sometimes it was a little bit unrealistic to a point. I'll say also one thing, episode 7, holy shit. It takes you to a dark place and you're just like unfreaking believable, because it also talks about the sheep mentality. And what I mean by that is when you have someone at the top and they're willing just to follow orders, and they're like, okay, I'll do that. Okay, I'll do that. Even though what you're doing and what you're doing is incorrect or morally wrong, you're still willing to do it because someone at the higher levels told you to do it. And there's also a funny thing about this when going back to revolutions, right? I'm looking at today's society, right, of how you have, okay, I would say these plumbers, these lower class individuals, they're not rioting, they're not, starting a revolution. All of these revolutionaries are these college kids that go to colleges that cost thousands upon thousands, tens upon thousands of dollars a year. So why is it kind of these quote-unquote rich kids that think they have it bad that are really starting to try this revolution in the United States and bring back socialism and Marxism back, when they have so many people underneath them that are okay with their lives, are not willing to do what they're... So it's just like a fascinating thing, and I think this show does it well, where, at a point, people are different. Not everyone's the same. Not everyone will be the same. Not everyone makes good decisions. Not everyone makes bad decisions. And yes, sometimes it depends on a nepo baby, and it sucks, okay? Sometimes life gives you a sour puss, and sometimes life gives you a sweet puss. And what are you going to do with it? I don't know. But I do think it is funny where, in the real world, all these revolutionaries are kind of these rich kids, and it's like, you're like, hey, go to North Korea. Go to one of the countries that end with a stand. Go to China. But they won't. And it is unfortunate. But overall, the 8 show, I was intrigued. I did like the after credit meta thing, because I do feel like if this show does kick off, kind of like Squid Games, there will be a season 2, just because these type of shows are hot and hip in today's day and age. And when you have shows like Sweet Home that are making it to season 3, I don't see an issue with the 8 show making it to a second season. So the 8 show will receive a 4 out of 5 Futons, which equals at 80%. So let's see the critics news scores gave this one. So you have critics, I don't know, but audience score 50%. Wow, that seems kind of low. But let's see what the critics are giving it. There's 4 of them, and we got a 50. I'll be darned. So we have 50, 50, 80. Interesting. Chase out here at the Blue Futon. Like, comment, subscribe. One of the things, Futontopia. You Booftonians, think watch a great day. I'm watch today, tomorrow, week from now, month, or a year from now, every single freaking one of you. And it does kind of show, is it the 8 show or the Infinity show? It's a good freaking question, because it could go on forever.